All right, Rob, Doc Rivers, who was fired by the Philadelphia 76ers after dropping a 3-2 lead in their series with Boston, second round.
Which now, Chris, when you think about that, and they won 2 games in both Game 1 and Game 5 and didn't win the series.
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah, Game 5 is usually pivotal.
That's pivotal, but they won Game 1 and Game 5.
And Game 6 was in Philly.
Yep.
And, of course, Doc has, dropped a lot of leads. More 3-1 leads than any coach in history. More 2-0 leads than any coach in history. More 3-2 leads than any coach in history. He was on Bill Simmons' podcast recently, and he talked about that and James Harden, Joel Embiid. Here he is.
What makes James great is that he's one of the best individual players to ever play the game. Ball handling, handles the ball, dribbles the ball, attacks, but that also allows you to attack. You know where he's at, and you know where the ball is at. And so in the playoffs, when teams are game planning against you each game, double teaming, taking the ball out of your hand, making it harder, it's easier to do that to James compared to do that. How do you take Steph out of a game? And I think that's James' kryptonite, right now. But I don't believe the whole thing that he quits and all that stuff. I just think teams make him struggle because they know where they're at, and it's easier to find them.
Did you like coaching him? Was it okay? Like, how would you rate the experience?
It was challenging, more because we were fighting two things, and not like visually fighting. Is that James is so good at playing one way, and the way that I believe you have to play to win in some ways is different because it's a lot of giving up the ball, moving the ball, coming back to the ball. I would have loved to have him younger when that was easier for him. Because giving up the ball and getting back the ball is hard. Like, it's physical, It's exhausting. So it'd been interesting if I had him younger, where he could have done that more. So at times that get him to move it and play the way I needed him to play. I thought the first half of the year, I thought we were the best team in the game. I thought James was playing perfect basketball. He was a point guard of the team. He was still scoring, but he was doing more playmaking and scoring. And then the second half, he started scoring more, trying to score more. And I thought we got stagnant at times. So I thought we changed.
Well, look, Rob, give Doc credit for really, sharing his honest opinion on that.
It's a little surprising, Chris, to be honest.
Yeah. No, it's good. Now,
but you don't win. You really don't win. People sound like,
right.
Well, what are you blaming that James Harden won your Game 1 on the road with no Embiid? James Harden, had a big series against Boston, didn't he? I mean, I know it ended in a whimper, Chris, but he had some big moments.
Yeah, look, I mean, like, to your point, some people may take that as Doc passing the buck, right? It was James is easy to stop in the playoffs or whatever. But look, he was giving his view, and it was a tad critical. But just a tad. But here's what I'd say, Rob. I think Doc makes a decent point about in the playoffs, they know James isn't going to be moving without the basketball. So, they know he's going to pound it a lot, and it might be easier to stop him. But I would say he had 45 points in Game 1, and Embiid wasn't even there. Well, it would have been easier to stop him then.
That's the point. That's exactly 100%. Right?
And then Game 4, he drops 42.
That's what I'm saying, Chris, is he had this incredible series, and you're talking about
he's easier to stop.
He's easy to stop.
Like, look, James Harden has had not only those 2 games, but if you go through his playoff resume, which is what he gets criticized for, he's had some huge games. And so there's no shortage of those types of games. But the knock on Harden is that come Game 6, come Game 7, that's when it's really time to decide the series. That's when he struggles, Rob. It was Game 6, I believe, against San Antonio. when he had 11 points and it looked like they were going he shot 2 for 11 and had 10 points and 6 turnovers.
Right, and here's the thing, because you would ask yourself about, if it's that easy to do, how come they couldn't do it in game 1 with no Embiid on it, right? Like that.
Right.
That's
he was more predictable without Embiid there.
And Bill Simmons could have pushed back with that, Chris, and said, well, how did he score 45 points in game 1? But like that would have been my question. Like, how did he do that?
And
then he would have to explain. Well, I hate that we're like college professors, but Chris, there are questions that you got to ask, and you just gave 2 games. You had 45 and 42.
Right.
How did he do that? If this is so easy to figure out in the postseason.
And Rob, game 6, 13 points, 4 of 16 shooting. Game 7, 9 points, 5 turnovers. He had 5 in game 6 as well. 3 of 11 shooting. That wasn't because they knew where he was going to be. It was because that, for some reason, that's been his issue. But I thought it also was interesting, Rob, when Doc said he wishes he had Harden when he was younger, because he would have presumably taught him how to move off the ball and be less ball dominant and all that. And Rob, whether or not that's true, I do think it is true that, like, one of the great things about Jokic, Rob, is that even as he's going to likely touch the ball on every single offensive possession for Denver, he's not ball dominant. And by that, I mean he doesn't over dribble. James Harden over dribbles
the air out of the ball.
Right. Luka, they got Luka playing that same way. And they got him over dribbling, and he's doing everything. LeBron, for the bulk of his career, over dribbled. Now, obviously, LeBron was able to win 4 championships, but it makes it tougher on your star teammates. If I dribble all the time and I'm going to create every play, whether I shoot or whether I pass to the guy that shoots, that's great for the role players, right? The spot up shooters who can't create their own shot. If you gave them the rock and said do something or ran a high screen and roll for them, they couldn't do it. So they need that. It's great for them. But if I'm a teammate that can get my own stuff, I'm not as good as you, but I got some game too. I got some wiggle too. You get frustrated. And so that's what I fear with Luka. And I don't really think it's Luka's fault, because you look at him overseas, he doesn't really play that way when he plays internationally. But it's going to be tough for them to win a championship as great as he is if he's got to create everything.
Chris, look what they
Or if Kyrie, now you think you're doing something different because you got Kyrie, then all you do is let Kyrie create on certain possessions, and Luka watches.
And the point is, we saw what happened when they put those two together. The team went the other way. How?
Because instead of having one guy do everything and 4 guys waiting, you had 2 guys doing everything and 3 guys watching them. And really 4, because Luka would watch Kyrie would watch Luka when they were. And Harden, look, Harden's. A lot of people have said this. The way he played in Houston when he was at his best. Now, he came close to winning the championship because he came close to beating Golden State a few times. But that's tough, Rob. That's tough. And I think that was what came between him and Chris Paul. Because Chris was like, look, we tried it that way. All right, let's get it a little, share it a little more and stuff like that. And I don't think Harden was having it. And so I think Jokic, Rob, is like Bird or Magic in that regard, in that, yes, while they're making most of the plays for the team, or a lot of them, they move it quickly. Or if they do dribble, they're dribbling it with a purpose. If Jokic is dribbling, he's either leading the break or he's backing somebody down for a little jump hook, or if they should double, maybe kicking it out. He's not just sitting there pounding it by the hash mark. You know what I mean? and revving up like a lot of the guys do. So I think that's a good point by Doc. Now, I don't know that Doc would have changed anything about Harden, but I do think that's a relevant point. And again, for Dallas, I think they need to try to incorporate an offense, especially when you have Kyrie as well as Luka, incorporate an offense where there's more movement, players and ball, and they getting everybody involved and they're not as predictable.
They got to figure it out, Chris, because there's too much talent for that not to work. Right?
Right.
Like that's coaching. You got to figure out how can we get these guys to coexist. There's room for both, but you got to figure it out. LeBron played with Kyrie and was successful, won a championship.
They made it happen.
When Kevin Durant and them were playing, Chris, they were almost unstoppable. So it's doable. I can't believe that they can't figure it out. If you tell them,
look at Golden State, nobody's ball dominant. You know, and that's the thing. Like, Jokic not ball dominant. The Lakers Showtime weren't ball dominant. That even look, Jordan, Rob, go back and watch. I mean, I know you know, but others watch Michael Jordan. Now, Jordan shot a lot.
Right.
But he wasn't ball. What did BJ Armstrong, his teammate who won championships with him, tell us? He said Michael Jordan's genius was he learned how to dominate the game in 3 dribbles or less.
There you go. That was it, Chris. Right. You just said it.
And to be honest, Jimmy Butler does that. I mean, he doesn't dominate like Jordan, but he's not wasting dribbles.
15, 16, 17. Like, what are we doing here?
Right.